Hey guys, I am Vanguard with another how to play video. I got featuring Direful dolls today. This version of the deck is really simple. I think this is a very cheap deck to build, exception of the promos here. And then obviously the overall deck is pretty easy to build and the play is very simple, but it seems like a lot of players that wanted to get into this deck had some questionable choices when they were attacking, or their guard value is a little different. So I'm gonna go over the deck and show you how to play Direful dolls. Alright, so we will go ahead and talk about the build or how to build this deck, and then we'll kind of go from there. The ride line is pretty simple. You do run the Direful doll starter because there is situations that you do need to call this out, so I would run the Direful doll starter no matter what, and then you run the obvious ride lines here, and then obviously your main choice is Android. Alright, so the triggers, you do run 16 obviously because it is Vanguard. You can choose between the front and the draws, but I feel like in the current meta, fronts are more needed. It does have better defense value. You do need your pieces, but I don't think it's as needed in your deck compared to other decks. So I think the 3 fronts are probably the most ideal choice. Here, the crit triggers, I purposely use the 5k on. It's better on boost, my opinion, because it gives you the straight number. You can run the Steam Divine Dragon because that it goes into soul. It gives +2, so you can build numbers. It's not a bad choice, and I think this is could be the obvious choice that people could run. And then you can also use other cards to bind this and get extra power and such. So it's not the worst choice in the world, but I think this is a preference point at this point. Did the 1k matter, or is the 1k going to make the difference, right? And then obviously here you run the Direful doll triggers. If there was more Direful doll triggers here, I would probably run it. Here you do run 4 of the crit triggers that have Direful dolls in the name because it's a given. Here you do run the regular heal triggers, but there is a secondary choice that you can do. You can run the one that is good when your opponent's higher in damage, that gets the extra power, because this does have Direful doll in the name. This is a selection that I personally did not like to take because there were situations that I could not use this effect at all. So I think giving the consistent 15k and making it a 20k shield with Android is probably the ideal choice. Here you can run a different OT triggers here. You can either run the blue because it is an extra crit that you can add, and you can add combo pieces to your hand, which actually does come in handy time to time. But me personally, I do like the Dark States over trigger just because it is a continuous +10 and a crit, and I feel like that with Android's ability given, that can triple drive, twin drive +1 every turn, or possibly every turn, and having the pressure of the critical trigger is probably the more ideal base of how to build this deck. But obviously the choices are there. You guys can give it a try and see what you prefer. Alright, so going off with the obviously the 3 perfect art choice and the Sanctitude, either the new one or the old one. I prefer the older one just because of how the meta is with Odium and then Night Rose and Harry coming out as well, and other Stride decks is probably the more ideal option at the moment. There isn't too many double crest decks, so it's probably the more ideal choice. For the Regalius piece, I do either recommend the Caliburn, the Grail, or the Twin Cast for defensive purposes. And then this is another card that you can add for the counter charge that people were running prior. I do think this is not the worst card in the world, but having a discard and counter charge one, I don't know if that's actually cost efficient from my opinion. So there is other options I am currently running for the deck, but this is another choice of counter charge if you don't want to run certain cards in the deck. I would say definitely give these a try. This is also a counter charge as well, hence why Caliburn is not the worst option in the world. And then Twin Cast gives you the defensive option on top of the defense that you already have against early game decks that you need to guard early. So give these a try and see how you like them. So I think the grade 3 choice is kind of obvious with this, but I don't know if there's any other better replacements. You're gonna run 4 of the Liberatas and then 3 Android. Android because you want a Persona ride. Obviously in this deck, Persona riding is kind of important compared to the Zorga deck I did prior. So definitely a 3 of. Liberata is your main piece or your main combo piece that keeps you um, going and keeps putting cards back into the soul. So Liberata is definitely a card that you do need to run a max rarity, or not max rarity, but max of in card value. Going to the grade 2 lineup, I do run 4 of the multi-attackers and then 4 of the promos. The promo is really good just because the counterblast cost that you would spend for Liberata, you can consistently search for cards that you want instead of random draw. And then obviously the multi-attacker is one of your main pieces as well to make sure that you are able to multi-attack and force the cards out of the opponent. But here are some deck choices that you guys can do. There's 2 doll choices and not 2 non-doll choices. Tiskar is a good choice when it comes to as a recycler fodder or defensive option, but I don't really recommend this over other cards. You do have reverties for early attack options, but I feel like that with the new promo that came out, I feel like that the 2 cards here are less relevant compared to prior to the promo coming out. So this is an option that you guys can set depending on your meta and depending on how people play around you. But it's not the ideal recommendation. The 2 recommendations here I do have is Shelby, which is a on hit. You can retire a unit. Also, you can put cards from the soul. I personally don't run it now just because that I do feel like that I have never had the situation where I need to put cards in the soul more than the ones I do now. And then also you can run extra copies of the grade 2s in your ride line. She is more efficient than Shelby from my opinion because sometimes you have cards that you want in the soul or from your hand that you want to put in the soul so you can call out with Andrew's effect. And having her early can actually force out a lot of aggressive attacks because of the extra 5k that she gives. So these are some options I do recommend for grade 2 lineup. Alright, for the grade 1, this is probably where you're going to have the most flex space from my opinion. I currently run 4 Spartas because Sparta is really important to get your engine going, to put triggers and then bind the triggers as well. So Sparta is definitely a main piece from my opinion as well. Even though it doesn't have Direful dolls in the name, it is definitely a 4 of in my opinion. So I do run 2 of the Amethyst Cat. I feel like that countercharging is really important in the deck, but this is also a 20k shield when you do need, and there has been situations that the Amethyst cat actually has come in handy. But I know that some people don't really like the cat as well in the current meta, so this is probably what you would call your flex space as well. So this is something that if you want to take out a card, this is probably where you would start taking out cards. And then 4 of the card that put she's actually your main engine, right? Because she put 2 card from the drop and then puts it in the soul, and she's also a 15k card if you guard from the bind zone, or she's a 10k card from hand. So she is actually a pretty relevant piece that you do need to run. I would say that the 2 cards I would never take out personally is the Sparta and this card as well. So definitely keep these in mind. And then the new promo that came out, she's actually the main countercharge of the decks, and that's actually a reason why that you might not need to run the cat, from my opinion, is because that she does countercharge every turn. But the difference between the cat and her is that she has to countercharge at the end of battle and you can only get 1 countercharge. Versus the cat, you can actually countercharge, if you have 2 in hand, you can countercharge both of them. So I think that there is, and then you can countercharge here and there on the turn that you place it. So I definitely think that there is some differences between the play. But if you are pretty good at your planning and what you leave as a counterblast, or if you are very good at control, I think you can take out the cat personally and keep her in the deck, and then you can use the 2 flex space for other things. And then as an option, I do have her, which she is the energy charger. I don't know if this card is actually relevant from my opinion. I don't think that you do need the extra energy from my opinion, just because that you do usually have enough for your multi-attacks, and the fact that you don't run Tiz cards anymore, so I don't know if she's actually a relevant piece in your deck, but she is something that you can consider just so you have it in your tools of option. Alright, so now I do have the setup where you can kind of see what a good opening hand would be and some ideal plays that you can kind of go and proceed. So this is all shuffled, so I will draw 5 cards. So actually this is a pretty relevant hand, so you can actually keep probably 4, but just as an ideal that you're going first and you have the upper hand, just so you don't get the extra, well, yeah, so you don't get the extra draw. I'll go ahead and mulligan to 2, and then you'll draw 2 cards. So good. All right, well, so this is actually a very strong hand. So you have you have 2 discard fodders that you can do. You have a card that you can keep, a guard, and another personal right as a guaranteed. So these are some cards that you can probably use towards the game. So we'll kind of play out the hand from here, and then just kind of show you a relevance of what's a good way to kind of work your way out of a hand that you have, or the hand that you have could carry you throughout the game, or how to set up the deck. Okay, so you will draw. So here you have like more than 2, but you can actually discard one of her just to start off to see how your game plays out. So you're going to go ahead and ride. At the end of your turn, most likely you will take the first damage because you have a card that needs counterblast in the beginning, so you'll go ahead and counterblast. Great, so now you will stand and draw. Cool, so this is a pretty ideal hand. So here you probably want to keep one of her in the hand and him in hand as well. So you're going to discard and ride top 7. Oops. And then cool. So I would say because that you already have her, I will put cards that you don't have in your deck. Or ideally you can put a trigger as well, but probably putting a trigger is not the most ideal option at this point. It also depends on the matchup. If the opponent, if you do want to set up early, you could put the trigger, but I feel like that at this point you don't want to put too many triggers in the beginning. So we'll kind of go from here. You're going to put 2 cards that you don't have in your deck or in your arsenal. So usually you would just make a 1 attack, depending on the hand. If you had the promo early, you could put her out, counterblast, activate the skill. But since you don't really have the hand to do it, you can just attack, drive check, get another grade 1, awesome. Okay, so now they're gonna attack you. You probably don't need too many damage at this point, so you can probably use up to 20-30k guard at this point. So just drop it. Okay, stand and draw. So you have enough cards, and then you can ideally get her back, and you have 1 in the soul. You can actually discard this, and then ride, activate skill, put card in the soul, 5/5, draw. So unfortunately you couldn't draw into the trigger that you needed to activate Sparta's skill, but that's fine. You can always hold on to it and work on it later, because you don't want to drop all these cards in the beginning. So from my point of view, it's probably better to keep her and play her out on the board. You want to put her here because this actually can go back, this can get binded, so you can put her back in the deck and counter charge as well. Probably want to put it behind the Vanguard at this point because you don't have the multi-attack option. And then these are some of the plays that you can do throughout a hand like that. Alright, so let's say you did go second here and you already counterblast. And you haven't used any of your multi-attackers yet because that you went second. And then let's say that this is most likely your ideal setup that you want to have in the deck. You do have a counter charger, you have a card that puts 2 cards in the soul, and then you have either the grade 3 Liberata to put something in the soul, or you have another one. But since we are talking about ideal hand, we're gonna go ahead and put that in the drop, and then kind of go ahead and show you the ideal attacking order, right? So ideally you want to attack with the booster that has her here. So you want to attack, let's say that you didn't persona ride, because that actually happens pretty often, right? So you're swinging for 28. Pay the cost. Activate skill. You're gonna go ahead and bind her. Go ahead and put 2 cards in the soul. Most likely, if you have 2 of these, you're gonna put both of these in. And because that you pay the cost, you're gonna go ahead and bind her. Call her out. Activate skill. Let's say you're gonna, well, let's say you Sparta as well, right? So you had 1 in the soul, so you're gonna Sparta, get an extra +10, and then you're gonna go ahead and use her skill to put something in. Same thing applies here. You're gonna swing and make it a 5 attack. So that's 20k, pretty good, right? So 20k is actually a pretty strong attack. So you're gonna swing. So this is a stronger column here, right? And then use skill, you're gonna put her in the soul. Then because that you called 3 units out, you have a counterblast. Let's say I did. So swinging, it has a triple drive if you win second. So first you do heal. Let's say that your opponent's at 3 damage. You want to heal off a Direful card if you do have it. So obviously heal it off. You're gonna apply the power here, weaker column, second and third. So pretty normal drives. You had 1 trigger, 1 5k in the card. So pretty normal triggers here. So you're gonna swing with this. You're actually not gonna bind it, so you get 2 opportunity to countercharge. So this is just 23, right? And then this is 23, 31. Activate. This will bind. You can actually counterblast the draw because of the flexibility of the counterblast. And there's a timing for everything, right? So and then with her skill, you're gonna put her to the bottom. Countercharge 1 back, and then go ahead and bind this as well. So ideally, that's kind of like the setup that you want to have with this deck, is that you want to be able to have the flexibility. Bind, you don't always have to go with the 5 attacks, but 5 attacks is probably the ideal way to push your opponent. So definitely, there are plays like that you can do. Okay, so I kind of rearranged from the previous setup I had, and I just added maybe like 4 more cards. Thinking that I did have the extra card prior, and then I do have the energies the same, and then the soul is the same. Everything is the same. I added an extra damage just to kind of show you that ideally this is the defense that you want to do with the deck, because in Direful Dolls, guarding correctly is the most ideal setup that you want to have realistically, right? So I'm going to keep the same cards that we had in the bind zone. And then I'm gonna, let's say that it's Levy Dress with the 5 attacks coming in. Let's say there's an personal ride. It's like a 20k swing. So because that you have enough flexibility in the 5k slot, you're gonna go ahead and use her to guard. So free guard here, right? So guard with the 5k. They're gonna swing with another card that's, I'm gonna say another 20k, right? So you're gonna use the other one. So this deck is very strong against multi attacks, and then. They're gonna go ahead and swing with the Vanguard. You're gonna go ahead and, well, so let's say ideally that even if they attack with the Vanguard first and not with these first, you're gonna do the same thing. You're gonna guard with skill first, put something into soul. You're gonna put the crit trigger into soul, and then you're gonna perfect guard, right? And then you're gonna ideally pitch a card that you won't need. I would say Android over the Grail, right? So you're gonna pitch. They get, let's say they hit 1 front trigger. Okay, the number does change a little bit, right? So it's gonna be a 20k attack, 30. So you're gonna guard. So guard and then 28, right? So with the front trigger, same quality. You're gonna guard. Makes it 33. They have another attack coming. It's the bigger one. So here you can take some damage if you want to, right? So even if you do decide to just take the damage, make sure that you use his skill just so you can get something in the soul. Ideally here, so you're going to put her in the soul and just take the damage. You do this process so you can use her ability to put something in the soul. They have another attack coming, so it's like about 20, I'm going to say like a 40k attack. So guard, and then you can still use a guard from your hand, so you can go ahead and use it. And then That's about like the 5 attack ideal turn that they have in their numbers with the front trigger, I believe. But even if it wasn't correct, like I just wanted to show you the more defensive pattern on how to use the deck. So now you have one card that you can still use. It's your turn to attack. So stand and draw. So luckily you did draw into her. That was not put on the top, by the way, because you saw the random drive check. So you're gonna energy charge 3. You're gonna persona ride and draw a card. So now this is the stronger turn on your opponent's deck. Let's say your opponent has like, I don't know, about 10 cards, right? Because that's about ideal in Vanguard. So you're gonna counterblast, activate the skill first. You're gonna call cards out from the soul. So call. And let's say you will, because I guess your rear guard doesn't matter. You can call her, right? The counter charger, and then call her out. So from your hand. So now these are bigger numbers, ideally. So swing, activate skill, bind. You're gonna put some cards back because you have another 5 attack coming, and then skill, pay the cost. Same thing, and boom. Skill, you're gonna put something back like you did. Same attack pattern, same thing. Bind, call another card, same thing. Pay the cost. You're gonna put her back. And same thing, attack. First, second, and third. 1 trigger, right? Sounds about right. Got a perfect guard out of it. Same thing. That's already hitting for 23 with the persona, so you don't have to use the effect. You want to rather try to get your counter charge here, so counter blast, draw a card, and then obviously you're going to put that to the bottom, and then bind this anyways, and then get your counter charge back. So I mean, these are some ideal plays on after defense, what you can proceed. Overall, this is a pretty nice deck that has multi-attack, got good defense, and then have some attack power. So I would say definitely recommend to try this out. And then make sure you guys leave a comment of what you think or what I could have done better on the video. And then make sure that you guys do comment, like, and subscribe for more match videos and such in the future. Or, you know, potentially other different ideas of videos as well. But thanks for watching.